Hello again, William Painter here with Strategic Management and Leadership, and we are going to jump into Chapter 4, Unit 2, Change Management Activities and Transition. Change management activities are multiple elements to it. You don't just say, hey, we're going to have change and just jump right into it. We can define what those activities are, what are appropriate activities. First, we can talk about motivating change. We have to create a vision. Where are we going? What do we want to be? What do we want to look like? Developing political support. I can't begin to tell you how important that is. You will never achieve proper change unless you get proper buy-in from the key stakeholders, political support. When you've decided to do change, you've got your buy-in, then you've got to manage the transition from the previous state to the new state, managing the transition. And finally, it's not enough to just get there. You've got to sustain momentum and keep moving forward. These elements constitute effective change management. Motivating change. You have to create a readiness for change. You have to sensitize the organization to pressures for change. Why do we need to change? Why is it important for us to change? What are we going to achieve to change? You've got to communicate throughout the organization. Identify gaps between actual and desired states. Where we are now, we don't want to be there. Where do we need to be, and what is the gap that separates the two? And then convey credible, positive expectations for change. Think about that sentence a little bit. Credible, that is believable, reasonable, positive expectations for change. Second thing here is you've got to overcome resistance to change. Nobody wants to change. Everybody wants somebody else to change, but nobody wants to change themselves. So you provide empathy and support. I understand it's difficult to change. I understand that you're used to doing things in a certain way, but look, going forward, I'm here for you. Empathy and support. As I pointed out earlier, communicate. It's not a secret. It's not a buried treasure. It's something everybody needs to be aware of. If they aren't aware of it, then it'll be assumed to be a secret. There'll be conspiracy theories around it, and you will develop more resistance to change than change itself. And finally, involve members in the planning and decision-making. If they are involved, then they own it. And if they own it, they will help you see it through. Creating a vision. Discover and describe the organization's core ideology. Who are you? Who are we? What are the core values that inform members? What is important in the organization? I worked for a company for a number of years, and their core ideology was very simple. They were a hedgehog. That was the company's core ideology. A hedgehog does one thing, it curls up, protects itself. It is a one-trick pony. It does one thing very, very well. So if anybody said, hey, who are we? Everyone said, we're a hedgehog. What is the organization's core purpose or reason for being? If you don't know that, you've got no business being involved in change. You must know what the core purpose, what the mission is, the identity of the organization. And then you construct an envisioned future. What are the bold and valued outcomes, and what is the desired future state? You must get people imagining, envisioning, seeing what this future state is going to be. Developing political support. First, you assess the change agent power. How much power do you have? How much power does the change agent have? Assess it. Second, identify key stakeholders. Who are the people that are going to help you, who are involved, whose ox may well be gored in the change process? It may be a department head, it may be a secretary. You need to identify who those key stakeholders are. And finally, you need to influence those stakeholders. Change as a transition state. You have your current state. You have a transition state. That's the change right here. Right here is the change, the transition state, to achieve the desired future state. Now, implementation and evaluation feedback. This is very critical. Diagnosis, design and implementation of interventions, alternative interventions. Then you have an implementation of intervention, clarify the intention, plan for next steps, and you take implementation feedback. How's it going? Did it work? How's it working for you? Are we achieving what we need to achieve in a time frame that we intended to achieve it in? And then you measure, measure, measure. Are we hitting our benchmarks? Are we hitting our results? Then you evaluate the feedback. You measure the long-term effects, and that feedback loop goes right back here into a recursive process. The institutionalization framework. Two inputs here, organization characteristics and intervention characteristics go into an institutionalization process, the output of which is the indicators of institutionalization. Now, that takes us to the end of this video lecture. Once again, you know what I'm going to say. Read the readings, look at the case studies, take the formative assessments, and then come back and we'll do it again. Cheers.